yeah, it's just like woke up at 5 in the morning. Some guy was like, "Hey, the jam space is on fire," and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I don't know. My first instinct was like, "Oh, maybe I should go there and see if like my stuff's okay."
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Scoped Exposure podcast again. I'm Spencer, and this is Sean, my guest for this episode. How about you introduce yourself quickly?
Hi, I'm Sean. I guess like, what do you want me to talk about?
Well, we have
like in terms of hardcore stuff.
Yeah, well, I have a couple questions here, but maybe you can just say like some of the bands that you're in and some of the what you're known for.
Okay,
I guess
music
music wise.
In terms of like hardcore, I play currently in the band Locked In with Spencer. I also play sorta in this band called Golden God here. That's newer. I used to play in a band called Disillusioned, and I occasionally put out like cassettes for hardcore bands on a label called Possessed Records, and I book the odd show under the name Big Drama Shows.
Oh, I didn't know about Big Drama, but Sean also does a lot with the more indie, not indie, but like more punk and grunge scene as well. Do you want to talk about some of those bands really quick?
Yeah, so I played a bunch of like kind of like title fight-ish sounding bands or like punk rock bands.
Offshoots of hardcore in a way.
Yeah, well, like the main ones would be like Ceilings, Louser. Those are kind of like Run for Covery, 90s sounding bands. I also play in a punk rock band called Nice Cops, which is like an Elder Abuse side project, which is another band I play in called Elder Abuse, obviously. And that's like a skate punk sort of band.
Right.
That is like, I kind of the roots of that band were like it was started with a bunch of hardcore guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of evolved over the years, but
Yeah, and that's going to be a theme of this episode is talking about the number of bands that you play in and, you know, some of the challenges with that. So like, have you kept track on the amount of bands you're playing in? You know, that's
yeah, I'd say like
in the
right now
9,
it's
10.
Right now it's like 8 kind of
Right.
main projects.
Mm-hmm. And what's been like the why behind like being in so many bands? Is that something that you just love to do, or did it kind of get ahead of you?
Yeah, it kind of got out of hand. I think I had like a bit of like fear of missing out on projects. Like some of them kind of like shot off like other like older bands or whatever, and someone was like, "Oh, my friend's making this band. They're like, do you want to be in it?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like I don't want them to be in a band without me.
Right. So it was just a matter of playing with friends.
Yeah, kind of like even like the most recent band I joined is that Louser band, and like I didn't need to be in the band, but one of them, the guitar player, also plays guitar in Ceilings, and then they showed me the songs and I liked them a lot, so I was like, yeah, I want to be in this, like, because I like it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you're very like just like to play live music, which is cool. And I know like for me, I think the max amount of projects I've been in is probably 3. But yeah, and obviously like I wouldn't say that all of these bands are full time for you necessarily, because you know, Locked In's on a long distance practice schedule with me living in Calgary. But yeah, like I think we were talking about this yesterday, that there's different ebbs and flows. Like, okay, this band is a priority this week because of X reason. Yeah.
So yeah, like Locked In and Elder Abuse would be my bands that I basically go long stretches of time like doing nothing with, and then like it'll just pop up that I'll have to like relearn the songs and maybe do a show or two or a little jaunt to Alberta or something.
And I was curious when I was like thinking about some of the things that go into playing in multiple bands. Have you ever played with a band live and you've accidentally played a part that's a part of another
Yeah, no, I haven't
Or like
done
brought
that.
the gear to like, oh, like I needed my bass and I brought my guitar or something like that.
Nothing that bad, no, that I can think of. Okay, one thing I've done is I was playing a show and there was like a group chat, which there usually is for like gear sharing, and I added everybody from Ceilings, and they were like, "Why'd you add those people?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" It was like a Nice Cop show, and I was like, "I don't know." Like I'm like, sorry, I thought Ceilings was playing,
Oh, okay.
or like people from Ceilings were like, "Why'd you add us this?" And I was like, and at first I was like, so I don't have to relay all the messages, you dummy, or something. Like I was mean, and then I was like, "Oh, sorry, man." I'm like, "We're not even playing that show."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we were hanging out yesterday, I was like looking at your texts and like the top, within the top 10, like at least like 8 or 7 of those were just band chats.
Yeah, I got ongoing Facebook band chats at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah. And one of your, I saw one of your band chats was not even, it was named after an older project.
Yeah.
I was like, is Joyride still a band? You're like, no, that's Nice Cops now.
Yeah, because like when we started we were in a band called Joyride like briefly, and then when we started Nice Cops, like we didn't. It was 3 of the same guys,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically the band, and then but we were like, oh yeah, let's start a new band, but we wanted to call it something different, so we just called it Joyride 2.0 for the group chat for now until we came up with the name Nice Cops, but we just kept that.
Yeah,
Group
like to
chat
keep
name.
a little bit of the past there.
Yeah.
So one thing I did want to talk about was the Jarvis fire, as that was something that happened, I guess, pretty recently in the last few months.
Yeah, in July.
Yeah, and maybe if someone's watching who has no idea, like what Jarvis, as far as that's a street here in Winnipeg, but maybe you can give some context to that building and then
Yeah.
how the fire came
Okay,
to be.
so basically, sort of north end ish of the city, off Main Street. There's a big warehouse. One of my band, or like kind of a few of my bands, I guess, like had a jam space in the building in the basement. Then there was a bunch of other stuff in the building. There was like a screen printing guy. There was like an architecture firm. There was some people building movie sets in there. There was an auto garage and a moving company, bunch of stuff going on. There's a whole bunch of artists in there. I think there was like 18 like visual artists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was some Halloween shit going down.
Yeah, so they did last year anyway. They did a zombie walk there,
Mm-hmm.
which they do.
And it's a very industrial like space.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it used to
So
be like,
that
used
fit
to be
really
like
well
a
for that.
bedding factory or something.
Mm-hmm. And so like how, because you were jamming in there for like a significant amount of time. Like how did you hear about that?
About the fire?
No,
Or
just about the
room?
space and like
okay.
that's a
So we
place
were
to
in there
jam.
for about 2 years. What happened was we had to move out of our old jam space. There was like, I don't know, kind of like a little dispute with the landlord. Like they claimed that we were missing a month of rent,
Oh, okay.
but they wouldn't say what month it was. So they're just like wanted like an extra like $800 from us. So we're like, okay, we're just gonna move. So then originally one guy, I would say there's like about 5 bands or something
Mhm.
in this that like regularly practice, and then side projects and stuff. But kind of one guy is in charge, and then he went and signed a lease at this other jam space building, which is above the Goodwill Social
Mhm.
Club, and he signed a lease there, and then he was like looking at the room, and he's like, "There's no way we're gonna all fit in here." So he was like, "I don't know about this," to the owner, and the owner was like, "Well, I have this other building, so that he just got or something." So he like brought his name's Mike over there to check it out, and then he had this whole like floor of it that was vacant, and he's like, "Yeah, you guys can just jam here until I like do something with it."
Right.
So we're like, "Oh, sweet!" So we had this huge like floor for a while, and then eventually he sold the building, and then those owners started like framing it in to make more jam spaces, and then I don't know. Then it was kind of annoying, so they built us a room in the basement, and then we were in the basement for about a year
Mm-hmm.
until it burned down.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me a little bit about that, because at least from my experience, I only got to jam in there a couple times. This is after I moved to Calgary and would jam a couple times when I was back in town. and yeah, you played a show like the night, 2 nights before.
Yeah, I think like on the Saturday played a show. Yeah, Saturday night, and then I think maybe yeah, I think it's Saturday night. And then so like the next day I just went there and like dropped off gear at like 8 p.m. and then woke up like Monday morning like 5 in the morning to like one of my group chats and
Oh,
get off the table.
Fangs on our table. Get off, bud. Okay.
So
Woke
yeah,
up to the group chat.
yeah, it's just like woke up at 5 in the morning. Some guy was like, "Hey, the jam space is on fire," and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I don't know. My first instinct was like, "Oh, maybe I should go there and see if like my stuff's okay." Whatever, like.
Throw on your firefighter
And they were like,
gear.
Well, I was
Run
like, it's in the
inside.
basement, so there's sprinkler heads and stuff. I was like, oh, maybe like something survived. I
Right.
didn't really think the whole building would burn down because it was like the building itself takes up a whole block.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like city block. So, but yeah, the whole building burned down, and then yeah, it was burning all day.
Yeah, and for me, like I just got that text and I was in Calgary, so I couldn't do. I was like, well, I can't really do anything.
Yeah.
So, do you know roughly how many musicians were affected aside from like the screen printing company and
So I think there's
things like
like,
that?
as in terms of like musicians that paid into the room, I think there's about 15, but then there'd be like guys like you who just had stuff there.
Yeah.
And like Trevor from Ceilings had a drum kit there, and then just like a few other people just had stuff there that would jam there occasionally or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of affected like more musicians than that, but
Yeah, and even in some ways it affected musicians who don't jam there because you have like a couple DIY labels. So you had, some tapes.
oh
and
yeah. So
shirts.
I had a lot of extra stuff stored there because I moved. So
Right.
like I moved. I just like stored a bunch of stuff there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had like CDs from bands like Bleed American, Sitcom. Those are local like punk emo-y bands. And then I had a bunch of CDs from a rapper named Drink Bleach.
Oh, right.
So
yeah.
lost all those. And then I also had like merch there for like Locked In, Witch Trip, Ceilings merch. And then like obviously all my instruments and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, actually, let's show because you were there just the other day and you
Yeah.
pulled a ceiling shirt like out of the fire.
Yeah, so like
You can grab it. I think it's like just over
yeah.
there. It's that gray shirt.
Yeah.
This is my bedtime shirt now.
Yeah, so what the drummer from a band Witch Trip, that's the main band that jammed there. He's like a city worker, so he had a city get up so he could kind of go in there. And before it was being patrolled by security, so it couldn't go in there. I went and checked it out one time, and then the security like chased me off. I kind of wanted to go in. I like stepped in a little bit, but there was nobody there this time, and the fence was knocked down. So I just like walked in the basement, and I just like rummaged around. I saw some of my like burnt guitars and stuff, and you
Right.
can see like the bottom of some cabs. And then in the corner there was like 4 shirts. They were just like really dirty and kind of wet. And then I just grabbed them and I washed them like 3 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, looks like a normal shirt now.
Yeah. You just won't mention that it was in a massive fire if you're selling them
Yeah,
at a show
it's
now.
like probably just make
Just
those.
make them more expensive now.
That's what I was thinking, but I just maybe give them away.
Fireproof.
Give 'em away. Yeah, really, they are like. Like if you look at the building, it's like it doesn't make sense that these T-shirts would survive.
Right.
Because it's like the fire melted like some steel beams and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the videos that I saw of like people doing stuff like late at night, just it looked unreal.
Yeah, and one guy in the band, he lives in the area like a few blocks away, and he said he was in his house and he could hear it like every time like he would just hear large crashes as the building was kind of like coming down.
Right,
And
yeah.
he'd just be like, oh, every time like
Yeah. Oh.
feel
well,
the pain.
Yeah. A little stepping on your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and obviously, like for most DIY bands, like insuring equipment is not probably like the first thought. So like
Yeah.
none of like at least the gear that I had like a head and a cap, and that wasn't insured.
Ye-
I'm
yes.
assuming none of the stuff that you had was.
Yeah, none of it.
insured.
I did like, kind of think about it. well, like you're like, okay, maybe if this gets stolen, but that happens often, and like usually you can track down gear kind of
Right.
because it's like it looks like this. You have the serial numbers and stuff, but so I kind of thought it always like maybe that would happen, but I didn't really expect it all to like burn down. And I could see maybe a fire happening in the building, but like not one
Not
that
the
would burn
entire-
down the whole building.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like I
and,
didn't.
and thankfully, if in case anyone was curious, like no one was in the building when it burned down.
Yeah.
So there was the only fatalities were of pieces of gear.
Yeah, gear and like art
Yeah.
and whatever. And so yeah, one guy had a bit of insurance on some stuff because he's like a live sound guy. So he had some of that insured for work, but not nearly as much as what he lost.
Yeah. And so in the aftermath of this, there was a couple like benefit shows that happened here in Winnipeg, and some money was raised. Is there anything noteworthy that we should touch on there?
Yeah, so there was like a GoFundMe, and I think that kind of topped out at like $7,000, which is pretty nice. And then kind of the benefit shows matched that pretty much, and almost every venue in the city did a benefit show for us. Like the Park Theater did one, and they matched all the money raised.
Mhm.
So that one was great. And then there was one at the Windsor. There was one at Bulldog Pizza. I did one at the Goodwill, and they gave us a discount on the room and stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and then the Albert did one for us,
Mhm.
and they raised like $1,000.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good.
Yeah. So if there was anyone watching or listening that donated or went to those shows, like from probably both Sean and me and the rest of the musicians affected, thank you. And yeah, that's really cool, especially for me, like because I left that gear there for like well over a year, and it was just. There was a part of me that thought the last time I was here, I was like, "Oh, maybe I should take this gear with me." And
Yeah, you almost took the red
I
pen.
almost saved it. So rest in peace to the Rev. Yeah. So something else I wanted to touch on that we kind of talked a little bit was your DIY labels. So tell me why you started Possessed and Little Cowboy.
Okay, so originally I started Possessed Records. I had done a few tapes for other bands before, just like kind of not under like a label name or anything
Mm-hmm.
of my own bands. And then I don't know, at this time I was playing in Disillusioned, and
Shout Disillusion.
I feel like there was a lot of like kind of like friendly competition in the hardcore scene in Winnipeg at that point, and I was just trying to like one up other bands. And I was like, I'm just gonna make up this record label and make people think that we got signed to a label. So we were like, so it'd be cool.
Yeah.
But then it was pretty obvious it was just me, I think. And then I was like, I'm gonna make these tapes anyway. I might as well throw like a label name on it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what that started.
Yeah. And then Little Cowboy came after that.
Yeah. So then I had done a few tapes, and I kind of like was kind of just doing my own bands really. So like they weren't all hardcore. And then I got to like maybe the 4th or 5th release or something, and my friend asked me if I would do tapes for him, and I really liked his project, but it was like a soft emo acoustic project, and I was like, wow. I was like, I don't want to like Possessed Records is like heavy. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Possessed.
So I was like, okay, I'll just make a different record label. So I was like, I think of like a kind of like a wimpy name. So I had this picture, like when I was a kid, I wore a cowboy hat for like the first like 4 years of my life.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so until my parents took it away from me, because my mom said that like the hat's bigger than my head, so they said it was pushing down my ears. So they took it away from me. But I have tons of pictures of me as a kid just wearing a cowboy hat, like in the bathtub, everything.
Oh, really?
Like I wore it like all the
So
time.
I didn't know that was an inspiration. On
Yeah,
how
so
you
I just had this like picture. I just found a picture, which wasn't hard, of me in a cowboy hat. So I just like made a logo with that.
Yeah.
And then that's like what's on the first tape for Sawyer. But then after that, I got like Graham Chorney in Vancouver to make me a logo, and he made the Possessed Records logo as well. So
Word.
they're like
Yeah. Shout out Graham.
stylistically similar.
He's a really awesome artist.
Yeah, so then
not
I
a band.
so then from that point I kind of like made Lil Cowboy Records more like my emo kind of stuff,
Mm.
and then Possessed Records like more geared towards hardcore and metal with the odd. But I did a Daggermouth tape, so that'd be like, but they're pretty punk and like kind of hardcore-ish. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, trying to keep the
separation there.
the vibes different.
The vibe's different. And we've talked about this just like through our band, but there's definitely been a big shift of different mediums for releases now. So, you know, bands traditionally did CDs, and then vinyl had a big resurgence, and now tapes is kind of like one of the top players. Maybe you can talk about some of the differences as far as like, you know, this just doesn't happen. Like there's different costs associated with doing different mediums, and
Yeah.
what you think is potentially the best bang for your buck if you're a DIY band.
Well, I'd say like tapes are definitely like cheap. They're probably the cheapest because there's kind of like a broad spectrum of how you can do a tape, because you can do it like very cheap, and then because you can cut the covers yourself, you could dub them yourself if you want, but if you get them pro dubbed, and then you can do like different quantities and stuff.
What does dubbing mean? Sorry, for those who don't know.
Like basically just putting the audio on the tape.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I do mine all like pro dubbed by the factory, but you can just order blank tapes, and if you have a thing, you can record, like you can duplicate the tapes yourself.
Sure.
Which
Yeah.
like some small labels and stuff do. I don't do that because I don't want to sit there and do that all day. But
Yeah.
I want the tapes to sound good,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I do it that way. But and then CDs, like I've been doing CDs more and more, but for like depending where you go, CDs are kind of expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but I've found like cheaper places to do them and stuff. So now it's not bad. But CDs, you basically have to order like 100, whereas tapes you can do 25 if you wanted. But I usually do like 50 or 100 tapes, but
Right.
and like bring down the cost per unit.
Mm-hmm. And then like vinyl, is
So-
it worth it for bands to do that?
So I've done one vinyl release. So I had one record that was kind of like bigger for one, and it was one of my bands, so I was like willing to put more money into it. So I did CD, tape, and vinyl for that, and we just really wanted the album on a record too.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really expensive. It was like it was like basically like $2,000 for 100. You could do 300, but I didn't and it would make it cheaper per unit. But I was like, I don't think I'm gonna sell 300,
Right.
so I don't want to sit on 200 albums. Like I'd rather just sell 100.
Right.
But it's really expensive, and then you have to pay for different mastering for the vinyl, and yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I've been kind of like turned off of doing a vinyl release again. I wouldn't mind trying to do like a 7-inch
Sure.
at some point release, because that's a little bit more manageable. But
Is it just cheaper because it's smaller and it's less songs, or?
it's cheaper in that respect. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, but also I was thinking like, okay, well, if you do like a 7-inch, you could do a split with 2 bands. So
Right.
then you have 2 bands selling it, and then it kind of makes it more worthwhile,
Yeah.
or like a comp or something maybe. But it would be really hard. Like I wouldn't really do another vinyl like full length unless I was really invested in the project, or like I like really believed in this band or something, and they were gonna tour a lot.
Yeah, and you knew they was gonna move
Yeah.
after it's made. Yeah, because that's the biggest thing
Oh,
for.
stupid cat.
Oh.
Get away from the camera.
Oh, I think.
I mean, he's not stupid.
Well, now it's.
Oh,
on.
edit it out.
Yeah, edit it out. Yeah, but as far as with bands, it's like there's a lot of money being spent for music, and you know, you want to have something physical that people can take home with them. Do you do lots of the logistics around setting up music on like streaming services?
Yeah, so I like set up all so some releases bands are like doing their own thing kind of, and I'll just do the one part of it. Like I have this band that I'm working with coming up. They're called Cell, and they're from Winnipeg. And they're like a black metal-ish sort of band.
Okay, cool.
and they're pretty cool, and they wear like makeup and stuff.
Oh.
But they're doing their own digital release and their own CDs and stuff, and then I'm just doing like the tape portion of it, and I'm just kind of like splitting the order in half with them, so they take half and then I take half, and then I just kind of like oversaw like the tape layout and just got that together for them.
Gotcha.
So there's been some times where I was just like, or there's a band I like, Bleed American, they had their own thing going on, and I just like bought into the CD run with them. So some projects of that, and then it's like my own stuff. Then I do all the distribution online and that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So yeah, let's change gears just a little bit. So I know, we were talking about the fire, and you had 7 guitars that you had lost, and correct me if I'm wrong, but were the majority of those guitars that you had, you thrifted those guitars?
No, well, like one of them, I guess my most expensive one was like ESP Eclipse,
Yeah.
which I bought at like Mother's Music
Oh.
when I was like 17. So that one was like a lot of sentimental value, and that one's pretty expensive guitar.
Right.
I had one guitar I bought at a garage sale. I got a good deal on it, but it was like super nice classical guitar that was kind of expensive too. And then I had a Martin that I bought at Long McQuaid, a Martin acoustic, so that one was pretty good too. And then the other ones were basically like Kijiji buys,
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
So thrifting, maybe as an umbrella term, covers or should be covering things like Kijiji and things like that.
yeah, they're just kind of like guitars I picked up here and there. Like, yeah, some of them were like older guitars. A couple of them I bought at, I guess this like vintage seller guy downtown. He
Mhm.
sells vintage clothes, but he has guitars and stuff. So I like, bought a couple off him. He has all these like cool like 60s guitars and stuff he always gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you buying those guitars to flip them for a profit, or are you kind of like...
No, I was just like, this guitar looks freaking cool.
Yeah.
That was like most of them, and I guess I had one old guitar too that I got at it's called Royal Trading. It was like this music store place that also had like a bunch of like 60s stuff. I guess kind of like those like pawn shop guitars, I guess they're called. So I was kind of like collecting those a little bit because they just have a cool sound and stuff. But I never really used them in projects. I just had them for fun.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple like cheaper guitars that I had kind of like souped up a bit, and I put like EMGs in them and stuff. And then those, like, I had one there that I used for my old metal band, a Cult Hand, that I kind of like, I mostly used my ESP Eclipse for hardcore and stuff like that, but we tuned in so low, we tuned in drop A, so I just needed another guitar, and I just bought a cheap one and just kind of made it sound like the Eclipse.
Yeah.
With the same pickups in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Cool. Do you prefer to look for your stuff on Kijiji, or is it kind of just like wherever you are? Because, there's lots of things nowadays, like, if there's any American people watching or listening, like Kijiji is essentially Craigslist in Canada.
Yeah.
And there's also things like Facebook Marketplace where you can find stuff. Where do you feel like you can find the best things? Is it online versus?
Oh yeah, I would say
the
like
real world?
like deals for sure, like Kijiji or Facebook here. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then like some things, I guess some of those things I just straight up impulse bought. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what?
like I had originally bought a guitar off that Vintage Glory place. That's the vintage seller downtown.
Okay.
And then I bought this guitar that had like those Gibson, it's called like a Gibson Robo Tuners or Gibson E-Tune or something, where the guitar, you just strum the guitar and it tunes itself.
Oh, okay.
They're kind of dumb. I don't really like them, but they're cool. And at the time I was like, I walked in the store, I think my girlfriend at the time went in there for a jean jacket. So I was like, whoa, what's this guitar? Because it was a Kaye Effector, which was like a guitar I knew about that I always wanted because it has like cool built-in effects and stuff. And I was like, oh, it's a cool guitar. And then he had the automatic tuning thing, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, I have to buy this. So I just like impulse bought it. But then he forgot to give me like the charger for it. And then So he told me to come get it. And I got it like a year later. And I walked in there and I was like, whoa, what's this bass? And then I just bought this bass. And I was just like walking home. So I just had to walk home with this bass. So yeah.
You just kept on buying guitars from this guy anytime you came in.
Yeah, I bought like
a new
two
toy on
off
the
him or
shelf.
whatever. Yeah, he's a cool guy. But
Yeah, cool. Is there any gear for you that you would always buy new, or do you feel like anything can be bought used and made anew?
Yeah, I'd say like most stuff you can get like used. I find like I buy new stuff when I just want to finance it, because like I say I want like my main guitar, like it's like $1,700 new or whatever. I don't know, maybe you could probably get it cheaper on Kijiji, but it's like I'd rather pay $1,700 over a year than $1,200 maybe up front, unless I had the money.
Right.
So that's kind of how I did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go about that, but
yeah, most Kijiji people wouldn't be like, "Hey, let's set up a payment plan or whatever."
Yeah, I guess
They
like
just want
I don't know, like
the cash fast.
Yeah, like when I kind of first got set up with bands, like when I first my first hardcore band, I just like bought everything along McQuaid and financed it. And that's kind of a good way to like accumulate gear. I usually just keep like, like $100 going on Long McQuaid, and then when it's done, like add stuff or just keep a tab going.
A tab with Long McQuaid.
Yeah, because sometimes you, because I'll add stuff and then like it just like resets itself to 12 months. So it's like you add something, but the payment kind of stays the same. And you put a little down payment.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I never thought about just having a tab with Long McQuaid. Like, oh yeah, it's run out. Let's get something else and keep it going. I guess that's how they could keep you in some ways. But like we rented some of these mics and headphones for this podcast. So Long McQuaid's a great resource.
Yeah.
Another interest I know that you have is claw machines.
Yeah, I like playing claw machines.
Yeah. So I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story, because I think claw machines might be that like unsaid thing for like bands who tour a lot. I was in Wilmar, Minnesota, and I was at a music festival, and it rained, and the festival was like 3 days long, and there was a little laundromat in town, and so we went there to go dry some of our stuff because it was just drenched, and there was a claw machine there, and like myself and a number of other people were just like throwing dollars at it, and I think I came home with a couple like different plushies, but let's talk about that a little bit, on how you started doing that and like your, I guess, mini passion behind it.
Okay, so I'd say my claw machine passion happened when I was in grade 6, and my family went to Disney World. Or, well, I guess like I don't think we actually went to Disney World, but we went to like Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios or whatever. Anyway, went to Florida. We went to Orlando, Florida, and then the hotel had a claw machine in it.
Okay.
And I had so much money for souvenirs, and I basically used it all on the claw machine there. But I just like drained the claw machine. I won like 30 something stuffies.
Oh wow.
And then my mom like had to go buy a bag so I could bring him home, like an extra bag. I don't really think I don't know if I really cared about bringing them home, but I think my mom just wanted to.
Yeah.
She's like proud of me maybe.
Because you won 30 things.
Yeah, it's like one. I just like, just like emptied that machine out. So then since then I was always into claw machines, and I think I just had like, I was like, yeah, I'm good at these because I won 30 of them at one time. So that just stuck with me.
Right.
My ego. But I'm like, yeah, I can usually win out of them. And then, so then like fast forward to like last summer, I was booking a bunch of shows at this one bar in town called Club St. B, and they had a claw machine. So I was always playing that claw machine when I had shows. And then I met this other girl, her name's Olivia, and then she's also really into claw machines. And then she kind of taught me this like claw machine technique that I'd never used before.
Oh, okay.
So kind of like this drip, like. So there's different kind of claw machines. There's like ones that like.
Please educate the audience.
There are claw machines that you just push the button and it just goes straight down and grabs. Like you have to aim it, or that's one of them. And then the other type of claw machine is like it's called like, or we started calling it incremental drop, whereas like you can tap the button and it'll drop a little bit by a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of just like get the claw machine down to the bottom, and then you can kind of drag stuff around.
Oh,
And
I
then that's
see.
kind of like the main method that we use now.
Sure.
Just
What-
and then I've actually used that like, so there was like recently there was a claw machine that like had a bunch of it was kind of like stuff was kind of piled up in the corner, and I just kind of went in and I just like dragged stuff into the hole.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
instead
so
of
I didn't even grab
grabbing
it. I just like
something and
I just like
moving
threw
it over.
Yeah, I
you
just like threw it off. But yeah, sometimes you could, because you drag stuff around to get an angle, you can grab it.
Right.
But so backtracking, so me and Olivia, we were into like claw machines, and then we decided to start like an Instagram page devoted to claw machines.
Yeah. And that's called.
It's called Kids of the Claw,
Yeah.
and we were just like going around Winnipeg and trying the claw machines and rating them.
Right. And,
And
yeah,
reviewing
because
them.
that's the biggest thing with that I found being a super novice in that is that claw machines have back end settings that, you know, either a bar or wherever the claw machine is, they can set the strength of the claw, the speed, all those things. So how do you, I guess it's maybe a trial by fire thing where you have to go, you have to spend money, see how it is, but what are some of the maybe methods that you do to test those things to know whether it's worth your while?
I guess like maybe throw $1 in it. Sometimes you can tell it's like, maybe you go for something that you know is like an easy win, and it's just like the claw just barely grabs it, and it's like, okay, this is like a weak claw, like I'm not gonna waste my money on it.
Right.
Or a lot of times if it's like, if it doesn't have that incremental drop thing, it's kind of like, yeah, it's not worth it or whatever.
Mhm.
And sometimes you can just tell by looking at the claw, just like what it like looks like.
Right.
And then there's some, like there's those machines that just have 2 claws. It's like, okay, yeah, you're never gonna win on that.
What do you mean? When
Like
it has
I
2 claws?
find like movie theaters, you see them sometimes. Like most claw machines have 3 claws, but there's some that have like just 2 claws. And it's like, you're never gonna grab anything with 2 claws. Yeah, and then some machines too, it's like they might have weird stuff in it, like boxes. It's like, oh, you're not gonna grab that box.
Right.
But sometimes I try anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Mhm. So because I'm curious for myself, because I've done a little bit of clawing. Is that the right term to use? I guess
Maybe, I don't know.
claw machining, whatever it is. I've done a bit of that, but yeah, the incremental drop is really interesting because most of the time you'll hit it and it'll be like doo, and that's just like your descent
Yeah.
drop. So yeah, you'll have to look. I'll have to look for some of those machines that have the step by step.
Yeah.
What's the biggest haul aside from when you were like, 6 or whatever?
I don't know, like maybe like a couple in a row or something. I usually just base like it off of how much change I have in my pocket.
Sure.
It's like how long I'll play for.
Yeah. Do you keep those or do you give them away or?
I don't keep them. Like maybe I'll like keep them for a little bit. I usually just give them to my mom or something. She'll just give them to kids because she works at a daycare.
Oh, okay. That's
or I'll
nice.
just like give them away. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have like a favorite thing that you've got that you have around here somewhere?
Well, in this room, the only thing I can see is like I have that Donkey Kong thing.
Oh,
that I
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
at a gas station. So I guess I kept that one because that one's kind of cool, and I have it on my, like, by my old video games, so
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, you have a lot of video games behind us here.
Other than that, I'd say like hallways. I don't know if it's like a trend in like what they're filling claw machines with, but I noticed that there was a lot of these like superhero ones, and the superhero, it was like a figure, and it was like on top of a box, and those ones were always super easy for me to win because I would just like loop the leg, and then like it would just lift up because it was like a full circle, and I just like won a lot of those last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was like a hole essentially, and then
Yeah,
you're
it's just like-
making a link.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those were kind of like easy wins.
Cool. Yeah. What's the most amount of money you spent on a claw machine? That you're not proud to say?
I've never like spent. I can't think of a time I spent more than like $10.
Right.
I say like if I can't win something off like $5, then then maybe I'm kind of pissed off. I don't know. Or I'm just like, it's not worth it. Like I don't have like a gambling addiction too much for a claw machine.
Right.
And then usually if I win something, I just stop. Unless I'm like, oh, I have a toonie, I might as well try to win something else.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, I didn't win, I'm gonna go break this 20. Yeah, I'm pretty like passive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we're pretty wrapped up there. So thanks again for jumping on here with me. What plugs do you guys have that you can share as far as like keeping up with you?
Well, I don't know when this is gonna come out, but my band Ceilings just put out a record that's on the internet. My band Louser just put out a record. Nice Cops is putting out a 3-song EP probably in November. I think Witch Trap is putting out some new songs. Locked In is finishing our second release that we started recording 2 years ago.
Yeah, it is coming out hopefully this year. I actually got a text while we were recording this saying that I got some Dropbox.
Oh, okay,
demos.
cool. So that's like what I got coming out in terms of releases. Possess Records is putting out Cell Tape. Lil Cowboy Records is putting out that Ceilings and Louser thing on CD. And I don't know, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So definitely go support Sean and all of his bands and his labels. Your Instagram is at Sean Kaye, Kaye all day.
Yeah.
Go support him. He's a very hardworking man for the DIY Winnipeg space. Anything else you want to add before we say ta-ta?
No, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, we're just going to finish this beer and get ready for the show tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, this has been a Scoped Exposure podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and following along. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Are you waving at that camera?
Yeah, should I wave at that one?
Yeah, wave at that one.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, bye.
I guess I was looking at that one. Maybe I should have looked at that one the whole time.
Yeah, well, you'll live and learn.
Oh, okay, bye.